Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. Hi, everybody. Granddaughter Crow here for yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. And we have got another very special guest for you. But what is so beautiful about this individual is I met them on social media, recognizes like. Now we're here on the show. Let me give you a little information about our guest, Jenny C. Bell. So she is soon to be published by Llewellyn Worldwide in July 2025 for Spirit Crystals. Yeah, Spirit Crystals. Discover your crystal guide for healing and empowerment. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because it's like crystal guide. I haven't heard that. I've been practicing for a long time. What's a crystal guide? Oh, so we'll talk about that. She is also the founder of Our Coven community online, and it is for practicing witches, um, international, private, protected, beautiful community. We'll talk a little bit about that and some other things about being USA 2025. We'll kind of go into a little bit of that. But for almost 3 decades, Jenny has practiced yoga, meditation, reads the tarot like any good witch would, and works with the healing power of crystals. She's also a Reiki master, meditation teacher. I love that. Of course, lover of crystals. Jenny uses her years of wisdom to champion others on their witchy journal, www.jennycbell.com. Welcome, Jenny C. Bell. Say hello to the Belief, Being, and Beyond audience, Jenny.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. So, just a little bit. I was just as most witches, shamans, spiritual workers, whatever you identify as, spiritual consciousness, even spiritual curious. I I'm a USA citizen, Navajo Nation, and now we're sitting here in 2025. I've never been here before. Or have we, people? Have we been persecuted before? I was kind of nervous being on social media because it's like another witch hunt, hide everyone. And I was like, this is the hill I die on. That's how I felt. And then I'm perusing my Insta and I see Jenny go, this is the hill I die on. They're telling me not to say things that are witchy, maybe I should cloak and hide. And you were just like, no, I am on here, and I just felt such strength, community, beauty, authenticity from that post. And I started looking at your stuff and I'm like, oh, you got a book from Llewellyn. Let's get you on the show. So anyway, that's how I met you. Jenny, just really curious. When I reached out to you, did you go, is this another spam bot or
No, you know why? Because you didn't call me beloved and you didn't say you had a message for my ancestors. So I knew you were cool.
right, great, great. Or that I've been watching you and that you have a very lovely energy, but that your guides want to me to help you or warn you about something, which is yeah, I love that because watch out for that, people. Watch out
Yeah.
for that.
Yes. Or they often will say they want to give me relationship help. And I was like, okay, excuse you. No, thank you.
Yeah,
No,
I
thank
did.
you.
I didn't ask. Yeah. So when you first saw it, you were just like, okay, she didn't say beloved. She didn't say that my ancestors for $20, she can tell me this, whatever to life. And you're just like, what did you do? You were just like, who is this granddaughter crow? And what is she trying to say to me? What did you do?
Yeah, so I went over to your Instagram and then I was like, oh, like started watching your videos. I like went to the podcast. I saw you had a book coming out, saw it was Llewellyn, and I like was like, yes, like I see like you said, like attracts like, and I was excited. I was excited to get to know you and have like an opportunity to make a connection. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really, Yeah, it felt good. It felt really happy. It was a happy energy for me.
Good, good, good. And you know what's beautiful about that is that we found each other via what others would call the internet, but what spiritualists will call synchronicity. Destiny, the crossing. So let's get into a little bit about your book coming out, Spirit Crystals. I love this. Obviously, it's in 2025, so I haven't gained my copy yet, but it is ready for pre-order, right?
It is, yes. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so when I was just looking at it, I was like, crystal guides? You mean like guides? Like animal guides, spirit guides, ancestor guides, angel guides, crystal guides? What? Talk to us a little bit about that. I love this. It's so refreshing.
Yes, so I been working with crystals a long time, as you stated earlier, and I started working with crystal skulls, which are very different. Very different. Crystal skulls often inhabit a guide, or you can invite a guide to inhabit a crystal skull, and they come into your life. They often give you a name, and it's a very deep relationship. So I started working with these crystal skulls, and I would have one of them in particular near me every time I would open my Akashic records. And I would open my records often, I still do, and just ask for, like, what's the next thing? Like, what am I creating next? What? And they immediately were like, spirit crystals. And I mean, it was like rapid fire. I'm trying to catch up. I audio record. I went back through, I had to take notes. And then I was just getting like chills, like, over and over again. I was like, yes, like the crystals are guides, they are guides. And I've always known that like in my heart, but I needed to hear it a different way. And then I just kind of started on this journey. I started off as a class, and people responded really well to the class and were really able to retrieve their guides quickly. And then we're having like these deep relationships, and really felt like they felt a new level of understanding with crystals. And so then I thought, well, this would make a great book. Like, how can we turn this into a book so more people can, reach this understanding and find their guide? And what's just so crazy, you talked about synchronicity, is this was all channeled, but then, they even told me like the sacred number of each crystal. They told me which chakra. And then later going through and like doing research and realizing how much that lined up was mind blowing, because this is information I didn't actually know on a conscious level. So,
Wow. I absolutely love that. And, I do have some crystal skulls. I have crystals this, I have pyramids, I have tumbled stones, I have wands, I have crystals. Can you kind of go? Yeah, I love it. Could you kind of go into a little bit more around, because I haven't been able to bring such an in-depth person about crystals onto the show yet. Could you kind of generally go over, the different shapes and why a skull would be different, or talk about the shapes of the crystals as people find their crystal guides?
yes, for sure. So the last chapter of my book is dedicated to crystal skulls. Half of it's crystal skulls. The other half is about making, different kinds of arrangements of crystals, right? And, using that to manifest and do different spell work. So I took a class on crystal skulls from Kyle Gray. He's the angel whisperer. And so it was a one-off class he offered one time, and I happened to take it. And then I started doing my own research, and I'm a huge fan of Jamie Sams.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah. So she's no longer with us, but her book, The 13 Original Clan Mothers, at the end of that book, she talks about the crystal skulls. And prior to that, all the information I read was that nobody knows the origin, nobody knows, could be alien, could be this, could be that. But Jamie Sam's very clear. There were 13 skulls. They came from the 13 original clan mothers. They were hidden throughout the world because humanity was not ready for them at this time. They needed to go into hiding. And some people are secret skull keepers. Some of the skulls are still lost and haven't been uncovered. And so that to me was such a beautiful new understanding that when you're purchasing a little skull, you could really use that to tap into that clan mother energy. This is like an ancient legacy from like on our earth. And so there are different skull shapes, and that definitely changes the energy that you attune to or you bring into. I have one called the Magical Child, and it looks almost alien, and it looks kind of like an alien infant. Everything's kind of squished in the sockets and stuff. And those bring like very new energy. So someone identifies as like a star seed or a star being, and they're really like wanting to get into this new kind of energy that's coming into the earth. That's the skull for them. There's animal skulls, and that definitely brings you to an animal guide, including dragons. I work with dragon energy. That's in my book as well. There's a whole section on how to find and connect with your dragon. And the dragon crystal skull shape really helps with that.
I love that. Because when I think about crystal skulls, it helps me to think, this is where we carry a lot, like our third eye and our consciousness and just that. But then thinking about the dragon as well. And then I'm like, dragon, crystal, intellect. And then I make this cute little understanding of dragons protect the treasure, which is the crystal skulls of enlightened information. Now, I'm just grabbing here, but that's what it sounds like to me. What do you think about that?
I love that. I personally, when I work with dragons, they are helpful with shadow work. And so in the book, there's a section that is a meditation to connect with a dragon and a unicorn. And so the dragon energy is the protective energy, helps you go through the shadow work. The unicorn's the enlightened energy, helps bring in that cosmic higher energy. So together they help you balance.
Love it. I definitely am going to get this book, and I would love it if you would entertain me to be back on the show after I am able to absorb this book so that we could give even more information because this doesn't sound like just another crystal book. I would pick up this book, and I've been playing with crystals since I could play with crystals. You go onto the playground and you find a cool stone, and you're like, yay, you fill your pockets, all of that. But this, I really enjoy that you're showing us that the stones aren't just a talisman, but they actually can communicate with you. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I know I'm springing this on you, but gonna have you back on the show just to talk about that. Before we get into, oh, wait, one more thing in your book. You actually bring us back to Atlantis and Lemuria. How do you do that? I mean, these are wonderful concepts. So I had just read a description and it said something about Atlantis and Lemuria. I used to hear about Atlantis and Lemuria all the time, and then it just kind of went away. And now Jenny C. Bell brings it back. Talk to us just a little bit. Like, if somebody has never heard of Atlantis or Lemuria, could you kind of give us just a little bit of a signal about what that is or where
Yes,
that is? Yeah.
yeah, they're I would say they're more popular in new age circles, especially from like the 1970s. That's when I feel like this concept really peaked. I happen to live near a metaphysical library, and I'm one of their number one fans. And so a lot of the things in my collection are from the 70s, 80s, 90s. And that's just kind of my preference of like the occult books that I collect. But yeah, so these are lost lands. So the idea is that both Lemuria and Atlantis were a people and a land, an island, both of them, of advanced civilization that worked a lot with crystals. Both have a lot of crystal energy, and a lot of people who understand the energy of Atlantis and Lemuria talk about crystals. You can even buy Lemurian seed crystals or special kind of clear quartz crystals. I have a Lemurian skull, which is who gave me all this information to begin with. These are connected, and so these advanced civilizations went away. And so there are different stories, and you find a lot of these stories actually in indigenous storytelling. You hear a lot about Lemuria Atlantis, they don't call it that, right? And that goes like North America, South America. You hear it, these stories that the different peoples have held on to of, these were, this is what happened to them. Almost kind of like similar to like Chaco Canyon, right? And like they all went to the stars,
Right.
right?
Right.
Those people just are gone and they all went back to the stars. That's the story. And I believe the story because that's the story that was passed down. And just because it doesn't fit with our modern science or our modern understanding doesn't mean that that story isn't true, right? And on whatever level it's true. So that's, Lemuria Atlantis, they're lost lands that some people say are not truly lost, that you can still connect with, right? That you can still connect with on like a meditational level, or a frequency level. Same with like Avalon. People will still connect with Avalon, another kind of lost island that was it real, was it not real? Does it matter if you are connecting with the energy? I don't think it matters really.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I love that. So let's hop over to you created or are the founder of Our Coven. And this is a wonderful community that's online. What I've done is look it up. It's international. It's very protected. You're not going to get the spammers or the people who jump in and out. It's very, very sacred. And you can find out more information at www.jennycbell.com. Look for our Coven. Talk to us a little bit about what you do with our Coven. What is it? Give us an overview.
Yeah, so part of what we were drawn to each other was we were talking about how important community is, especially now living in the United States, 2025, but really around the world, everyone's affected by our news and what's happening. So a couple years ago now, I had decided there's this kind of web host called Mighty Network. And Mighty Network is similar to a Patreon, except for it's not about one person, it's a community. And so I went back and forth. I'm like, do I want to do a Patreon? And there's nothing against anybody that does that. But I didn't want it to be about me, right? Which is why it's called Our Coven, not Jenny's Coven or my Coven, right? So I was like, I went back to the Mighty Network because when I was in a pretty like dark time during a spiritual awakening, I found another Mighty Network called the Find What Feels Good Kula. It was for yogis and meditation practitioners. And I wasn't on any other social media at that time, only that. And it was international and it was uplifting, beautiful. They became my people. When I went through this dark time, they were not judgmental. There was no spam, there was no troll, because everybody was there with a shared understanding that we want to build community. We're not here to tear people down. And I wanted to, that community eventually went away. And I really wanted to recreate that for a witchy audience. And so not everybody in our coven identifies as a witch. We have someone who identifies as a shaman. We have pagans. We have a Christian witch, and then we have people that are witchy. Different type people. But what's so funny is, I created this community with like no followers.
Hey,
So I totally put the cart before the horse, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna do it,
right.
and it's gonna happen, and I'm glad because with how social media is so unstable right now, the blip of TikTok proved that, and everything going on Instagram. I was like, you know what? I created the community at the right time because now the community is already thriving. So if someone is like, you know what, I'm done. I want to like leave regular social media and I want to just be with people like me, they can come. And I kind of think in some way that this is sort of like the future of social media, is finding these little niche private communities of people that you just really, connect with instead of wasting your time. Because I think a lot of us, I'm an idealist, and I think a lot of us like went to social media to build community.
Yeah.
I know that's why I went. I work from home. We moved to a new area. So I'm like, let me get on social media and see if I can find people, trying to find other like-minded people, authors, whatever. And so yeah, so I created our coven, and it's a beautiful space. Like I'm a proud mom of our coven. We have just great discussions in there. People aren't afraid to ask questions. There's no dumb questions. There's no judgment. Someone asks a question that's in the beginner witch section. No one's going like, oh, you should know that, or don't do this and don't do that. There's so much of that on witch talk. It's like my way or no way. And I just don't like that. So it's very inclusive. People are very kind, very understanding. There's lots of respect. We do really fun lives. I do fortune telling. I do card readings every month for them. There's classes. There's holidays. We talk about all the moons. We celebrate the moons. We have a book club. We read books together every month. We have an apothecary, a kitchen witch section. I mean, any kind of aspect of witchcraft. Like just today, I asked, what's one herb you would put into your apothecary? Just like if you could only pick one, what would you recommend? Because we have some people who are really advanced in herbalism and some brand new. And just like the day before, I asked about, what's some herbs you would grow in your garden? And just the answers are just from the heart. Because no one's trying to like sell something to you. No one's trying to convert you. They're just from the heart answers. And it's been really positive.
I love it. So you can find out more um, on her website. And I think there's a small fee to keep the riffraff out. Can you talk
Yeah.
just a little bit about that? Because I agree. Let me tell you, if I go out online and go, oh, I'm doing a bunch of free readings, I'm going to get a lot of people who don't show up or, they don't care. But if I go online and I'm like, for $3.33, I'm going to talk to you, there's an investment. And then it's like taken to another level of respect and security. So can you talk a little bit about that around the fees and how it keeps the riffraff away?
Well, I love what you said. So it's true that when we pay for something, we're more likely to follow through, right? If I'm going to sign up for a free class and I'm like, meh, I just don't
Right.
have time for it. If I pay for that class, you betcha I'm showing up. I'm finding the time for it because I'm like, okay, they call like that pain in economics, right? We have a little bit of pain, like if we lose out on this investment. So with Mighty Networks, it costs me money to have our coven. So that's, the basic thing. I put a lot of work in there and it's, a lot of work, a lot of time. And so that's the other place the fee goes to. At this time, if someone is wanting to commit for the whole year, it's $110 for the whole year. And that includes everything. And we have like a huge library of stuff. I mean, there's like stuff for baby witch. Like if you're a beginner witch, you can pop in there and get everything you need. We celebrate there's stuff on every single holiday. There's recipes. I mean, they get everything from previous years. Last year, we focused on divine feminine healing. So we focused on a goddess or a deity a month. And so people still get that. This year we're focusing on crystals because of my book. So February was rose quartz and we did a live where we meditated with rose quartz and we wrote affirmations with rose quartz. And so you get all of that. And then if someone is just like, I don't know, like a year's a lot of commitment, they can do 1 month for $20, which isn't as good of a deal, but I get it. Like sometimes it's like, I don't
Pay as you
know.
go.
I don't know if I want to dive in. But most people dive in. I've only had really one person buy the monthly. Like most people want to just take the full dive.
So if you're
Love that.
enjoying the Belief Being and Beyond podcast and would like to support it, I'm on Patreon. Just go to Patreon, Granddaughter Crow, or you can find it at granddaughtercrow.com. Thank you
Full
so
dive.
much. Love that. And I love it because, it sounds like when I first came out of the broom closet, I wanted to go to a place beyond a metaphysical store, and ask questions like, what does Widdershins mean? Why do we have belt? How do you say Samhain? Like just very, very basic questions. But I was so afraid to because, what if I look stupid? Which is another reason why I love doing Belief Being and Beyond, because I will ask the questions for the audience to brief the audience that there is more beyond. But this sounds like, and so then I was looking for a community, but then you don't know if there's going to be a Betty who gives all of your information away, or there's going to, a Karen who yells at you because you wore your witch hat backwards or whatever, and so you got to do a lot of this. But what you're providing is a safe community, which is really, really needed in this day and age, where we're at, that we'll be able to international. So then we go beyond our own ego, our own head, and all of that. So thank you for doing that. Is there anything else you want to add about what people can get from our coven? I mean, because for me, I'm just like, well, that's enough. $110 for a year? Are you kidding me? Even $20 for a month. I mean, that's Starbucks coffee. I'm
Exactly.
not sure if we're banning Starbucks, people. Sorry. I don't know. I'm not keeping up with all of that info. But so what are some of the feedback? I guess that's a good question. What's some of the feedback from members of the coven that you have received?
Well, we have someone who recently shared this person had a very unhealthy, toxic relationship. And this person's been going through therapy and just going a lot, doing like all the work, right? But meanwhile, leaning on us in the way that she feels comfortable. We don't. I know a lot of the more information than other people, and that's okay. And she said that we've really helped her step into her power, like to know that she's not the only one with an altar, to know that she's not the only one looking at the moon tonight. She's not the only one talking to Hecate. Like it's empowering to know that you're not alone. And I think that's been huge. Another thing we've been doing is we have a gift exchange. So we don't do any money transactions in the coven, but we have a gift exchange where people can trade like services like astrology reading for card reading or whatever. And we've been doing every full moon, we've been doing card readings. So I just put up the layout and then I ask who wants to participate. And then they say I'm in. And then I randomly partner them up. And they have been giving each other amazing readings. Like they're making these connections, like from the USA to Canada, or USA to UK, or the south of the USA to the north of the USA, whatever. It's like all these kind of connections. And I'm getting this feedback that they love this. They love doing these readings. And I got that idea from The Service Fairy by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She wrote Braiding Sweetgrass. And then she wrote a book, The Service Fairy, which is all about a gift exchange society. Like, what if it wasn't the economics that we have today? What if we just gave freely to each other? And so in that community, if someone's just like, hey, I want to do a card reading for anybody, and you're not expected to give anything back. They just want to. Like, I'll get a new card deck. I'll go into our little live chat. I'll say from now until 4 o'clock, if you want a card, let me know. I'll pull cards until then. And then, after 4, they don't even ask because they know. But anybody that's there just pops in. It's like, okay, I'm going to get a card reading.
I absolutely love it. And like you said, perfect timing. You also another friend of mine just said something about braiding sweetgrass. So I'm like, okay, I gotta read Braiding Sweetgrass because apparently that is part of the consciousness that needs to come in as we build community at this point. So another thing that I really enjoy about even just what are your social media handles? Can you give them a call out real quick? Because I would love for people to be able to find you and get like that little free sample of what your energy is about. Because when I saw your free samples of what your energy is about, I'm like, be on my show. You got to be on the show. So, anyway, I think of it as free samples. What are your social media handles at this point? Like, it's ever evolving in what we're discovering, but lead us to you. Where are you at?
So on Instagram, which is still growing slowly, I'm at Our Coven Community. And on there is a lot of information about Our Coven. So if someone is like, feels like the website isn't giving them enough, they can go on there. There's a lot more samples of what we do in there and talk about, there's like different testimonials from people in there and that kind of thing. And then my TikTok is where I spend most of my time. And I'm Jenny_C_Bell. And I love to talk. So I am a Gemini moon and I just love to talk. And so I do like book talk reviews. I do card deck reviews. And then I just get on there. Like today, I just went on there and I was like, let's talk about the new moon energy. And I answer questions. I have a lot of beginner witches asking questions. And I like to think of myself like in my mind, this is, I'm the Mr. Rogers of witchcraft. Like, I'm going to welcome you to the neighborhood. I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to be friendly. All are welcome here, and I'm going to be grounded. I'm going to give you your answers. And I really don't judge. Like I get questions, all kinds of questions, both in our coven and also on social media. And I really like, there's zero judgment for me because it's like we all begin somewhere. And I was a teacher. I was an English teacher for 13 years. I mean, I've heard everything. So
Yeah, I love it. I love this Mr. Rogers of the neighborhood. I absolutely love that. Welcome to the neighborhood, kids. Let's get our witchy shoes and our witchy hat on I absolutely love that. And you are very approachable. You also throw down what I call PSA, public service announcements for the witchy community, for the conscious community. And I kind of was hoping that you could throw us down a little bit of the public service announcements that you're feeling like we're recording this under a new moon in Pisces in February 2025 from the US. But you talk a lot about just community and like how are we supposed to be right now? What would you say to the people as what I'm coining you as the PSA of social media for witches?
I would say, first and foremost, please take care of your energy.
Mm,
So I feel now more than ever, there are a lot of eyes on people like us, and they're not always friendly eyes. You know, I've had, like I mentioned in another video, I've had people say, like, if I were a witch, I wouldn't be saying these things right now, or I wouldn't be out as a witch. And even I go to a psychic twice a year that I trust, and she even said, you know, you have a lot of eyes on you, which she always tells me. She's like, but in this case, it's a lot of Christian eyes that are praying against you. And so, you know, to me, like that's not very Jesus-like, but that's a topic for another time.
right.
So protecting your energy is huge because social media is constantly changing. And so if you are out of the broom closet and you are out and about and you're wearing your pentacle out in the store or you're on social media or your neighbors know, there is a lot of not nice energy thrown our way. And so it's so important to I like cleanse my energy daily. And if you're not going to do it daily, then you got to do it, I'd say at least the new moon. You can do it you can cleanse your energy in the shower. You can use a selenite wand, sacred smoke. It's not a complicated process, right? It really isn't. And I said earlier, like on another TikTok, but you know, I like a good egg cleanse, but currently, you know, no one can afford eggs. So
Right. Good point. Right.
So you probably hold off on that. You can do like a sacred bath or shower instead. But cleansing your energy and then protecting the energy. So a lot, you know, so I have been lucky enough to always have spiritual, witchy, pagan people in my life, which is part of why I created our coven because I used to be part of a pagan meetup in college and we just meet and there was like all different kinds of people. I was the only one that actually identified as a witch there. Everyone else was like, we had a Buddhist, we had like shaman, we had healer, all kinds of people. And I was taught to protect my energy. And just like, you know, they said, just imagine like a bubble of protection. But what you're doing is you're just locking in everything. All
Yeah.
the eyes, all the cords, they're just locking it in. And it wasn't like it wasn't helping me. They're like, are you always drained? I'm like, yeah. And I started doing this bubble. I'm like, I don't feel good. Like it's not, it wasn't until much later, studying with Kyle Gray. He has this whole like he likens it to skincare. So it's like a cleanse, tone, and lotion. But you cleanse the energy, you tone up the energy, and then you protect the energy. And that has always stuck with me. So I think more than ever, doing that, and then also being really cautious of what energy you're taking in. If you're just on the news feed and you're just seeing that one person that no one can stand and is ruining our country, you just seeing his face over and over again, it's draining and you're inviting his energy into your field. So I think it's best to, if you're going to follow the news, to read the news instead of like listening or watching, and it's like you're taking it in, like it's less abrasive in your energy field. And I do think it's important to follow the news. I've been like, I just recently saw Dolores Huerta came out and told us, which companies to boycott, because you talked about that earlier. And so, yeah, I want to stay up. I want to stay awake in all the ways, but I don't want to be beaten down by the energy.
Right. I absolutely love that. People, energy hygiene, and you know what I love about that is most people do shower, tone, wash their hair, cleanse, sometimes deep cleanse, put on the lotion, put on the sunblocker. So what I would recommend people is as you are doing that on physically, that you add in more consciousness with it. Like I'm in the shower and I'm like, okay, I'm cleaning my elbows. But if you go into the shower and you're washing your hair and you're just like, I'm going to wash all of that extra energy out of my hair. I'm going to release all of those old thoughts. I'm going to let them go down the drain. Now I get out and I'm going to love myself and pat myself dry. And then I'm going to put on protection and tone. You can implement it at that time too with wands and all of those things too. What do you think about that, Jenny?
I love that because I purposely use a rosemary shampoo for that reason, right?
See,
So it's protective, it's a cleanser and a protector, and it makes your hair really nice, helps it grow like on another levels, and it's great for all hair types except for blondes, but they could use lavender. But yeah, so it's like I make a black salt scrub, so it's like using the black salt that a lot of witches make, putting it in some oil, and some days when you really feel like there's a lot of extra eyeballs on you, and then you're also exfoliating your skin. So I totally love that idea.
love it too. I love it too. So, once again, www.jennycbell.com. That's Jenny, the letter C, Bell, Bell.com. Is there anything else that you just want to say to our listening audience before we wrap up?
I want to say that if like, when you get a new crystal book, right? So I'm putting another crystal book out in the world. And I just want to say that it's a minimalist approach. My book really recommends having 1 to 6 crystals. And I just want to throw that out there because I think that there's a lot of fake crystals being sold. There's a lot of kind of gross kind of mining of crystals. You really, in the end, you don't need a big collection. And I don't want people to think, this happens a lot with, especially with social media. People are showing their big crystals and, oh, I need that one. I need that one. I just want to say you don't. You don't need them. You really can work with just a few. You can collect stones from your yard and work with them. Like it really, crystal work does not have to be $1 million business. It really doesn't.
Love that. I love that you said that too, because, it's kind of funny because when I first got into crystals, I had to get them all. They were all my friends, my little buddies. They were following me home. Adopt me, adopt me. And then after a while, I placed them in a few places. And then I started giving them away to people who I was just like, which one resonates with you? And now I have like right here, I've got like a smoky quartz and I've got a selenite. And I'm kind of looking around and I'm like, what else do I have in here, And so I love that the minimalist, less, I mean, more doesn't mean more or better. Honing, intention, all of that is more around that because crystals hold ancient wisdom. I mean, that's how they formed. They were here long before us. They'll be here long after us. Yes, GDC said that. So, anyway, Jenny, here is to a wonderful beginning of yet another, colleague, business colleague. I really would like for you to come back on the show, show us a little bit more about the in-depth crystal work. I really want to do that. Again, follow Jenny, get familiarized. If she's your cup of tea, yo, yo. go on and on her website. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening and tuning into yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. I am here to tell you you are loved. If you wish, hit the like, the notification. Please, if there's somebody that you just had a conversation with about crystals or Lemuria, or I want to join a coven, share this video. Share this video. Anyway, I love you, listeners. We will see you on the flippity flip.